Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully everyone can hear me. If you can't, I suppose you can't hear me, you won't let me know. Thanks to George Bailey for joining us today after Australia named an 18-player squad for the Pakistan tour coming up in a couple of weeks' time. George is here to obviously answer your questions on that squad. As always, if you keep your cameras off and your microphones on mute unless you have a question. And if you have a question, please put your hand up, raise your hand in Zoom, and we'll get underway. Great, you can hear me by the looks, so we'll start off with Nick Savage.
Thanks so much, Cole. George, it was great to see a near full-strength Australian
Sorry,
squad
Nick,
today.
1 second.
Oh, no worries.
On to default microphone, 1 second. Sorry, Nick, that's unusual. Can you say a few words, please, Nick?
Hey, gents, have you got me now? Hello?
Sorry, bear with me, folks. It's okay. Okay, sorry, Nick, we'll try again. Can you just say a few words?
G'day, gents. Have you got me okay now?
Yep, we've got you.
Loud and clear.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Cole. George, it was great to see a near full-strength Australian squad announced for this Pakistan tour. Have you heard any concerns from the players about security threats or anything? Are there any lingering concerns about that heading into this Pakistan tour?
No, I don't think so, mate. The briefings have been particularly thorough. And obviously, Pakistan are incredibly keen to get international cricket back to their country. And I certainly know our group, playing group and staff group are excited to get over and play there as well.
And just very quickly on Marcus Harris as well. Obviously, he missed the final Ashes Test match. What role do you potentially see him playing in this upcoming Pakistan tour?
Well, he's the spare opener there. We continue to think that Harry got better and better as the Ashes was going on. A lot's been said about that innings in Melbourne in difficult circumstances. Was he just made a particularly compelling argument himself? But I certainly think David Warner and Uz would most likely start as the openers in Pakistan. But we also are aware that. Not that age is a be-all and end-all barrier, but both he and Uz and Bull are reasonably old in terms of, I think, around 35. So just conscious that specialist opening role is really important to continue developing that. We've got a lot of subcontinent cricket coming up over the next 12, 18 months. So it's important to keep focusing on a bit of a succession plan there and developing Harry's skills.
Mel Farrell.
Thanks, Cole. Thanks, George. Just wondering, like as you say, there is a lot of cricket in the subcontinent for Australia over the next year or so. How much has that been sort of brought into mind, I guess, in just this squad, in looking at that, I guess, holistically, as needing to play well in the subcontinent?
I think, subcontinent. I think playing. Away tours has become incredibly tough, and that's not just for Australia. I think that's just for most touring test teams. It's becoming increasingly hard to win away. The conditions that you don't get the exposure that as often. So players, it probably takes a little longer to build up skill sets or ways to adapt to those different conditions. So that. From our point of view, this is the first step on a number of tours across to the subcontinent. Obviously, an 18-man squad, 3 tests. There's a chance that not everyone will play there, but they will hopefully, through some training conditions and things, we'll be able to expose them to some conditions and still get some skill development.
Thanks.
Ed Jackson.
George. I guess 18-man squad. Usman talked earlier about the sort of the unknowns with going to Pakistan. It's been so long since Australia's played Test cricket there, and just we don't know whether there's going to be spin-friendly pitches, pace-friendly pitches, that sort of thing. How much of that thinking came into when you were naming such a sort of, I guess, wide squad?
Yeah, it was one of the considerations. It's still not particularly easy if we were to take a smaller squad and suffer some injuries. It's not particularly easy to get people from point A to point B at the moment. So, for a little while, the larger squads will probably remain. But absolutely the ability to expose a broader group to some conditions. I'm really hopeful we'll be able to get some A tours and an A program back up and running in the near future and continue to expose an even broader group to some of the subcontinent challenges and conditions.
Lockie McCurdy.
Thanks, Cole. Hey, George. Obviously, 3 spinners in this squad, and there's a lot being said about spin going into this series. Do you see a possibility of all 3 spinners being picked in the same test lineup? I know it's a bit hard to judge that, not having seen the conditions yet, but if the conditions suit, would you be at all hesitant to pick all 3 in the same team?
I think all 3 are capable of playing Test cricket. Absolutely. We don't know what conditions. A lot of the first class data that we've sort of been looking at and chatting to a few people who had played over there. There's some one pitch in particular that we think will suit the fast bowlers. I think Karachi will take a little bit of spin, and we're not quite so sure on Lahore. That generally has been a bit of a better batting wicket. So it's not. I'm not entirely sure what to expect, but I think over the last, not necessarily touring Pakistan, but some of the subcontinent tours we've been on, it has been there's been opportunities for teams to exploit some of the gaps in our skill sets at different times. But I certainly feel with this squad we've obviously got an incredibly strong fast bowling lineup with some all-round depth at the moment, which gives us great flexibility in what 11 we want to go with. We've got some great spin depth. Obviously Gaz has been outstanding, but we're really confident that Swepo and Ash Agar would do a good job if they got the opportunity, and also Marnus and Steve Smith and Heady can also bowl some handy overs as well.
Braden Ingram.
George, Will Bukowski makes his return to Sheffield Shield cricket tomorrow. In terms of him, he had said that he was eyeing this tour to Pakistan, although obviously not being able to play Shield was probably counted him out. Was there a temptation to put him in the squad and get him back amongst the squad, or is it about getting him to the crease as much as possible and getting him comfortable again?
Yeah, spot on. It's probably a bit of a longer journey for Will. Really excited that he's back and that he's got a few games of grade cricket under his belt, and great to see him back for Victoria. But expecting that to be a bit of a longer journey.
And does that mean possibly maybe not until the summer that we see him if he's in form?
I'm not sure, mate. I mean, it's been a long time since he's played first class cricket. So, he's obviously copped that last head knock, but he's on his way back from shoulder surgery as well. So we'll work through that. But fingers crossed he gets the rest of the Shield season in. That'd be fantastic.
And can I just, while I've got you, ask about obviously the departure of JL? Have you chatted to him since that's happened? And obviously there was in his resignation statement he talked about some of the media reports and how that maybe that there was a few support staff didn't support him. Is that a fair characterisation, do you think?
First point, I've left a voice message and had a couple of texts with JL and got a quick response back, and absolutely will continue to reach out to him over the coming days, weeks, months, years. Mate, I feel for him. Absolutely no one deserves to have the saga that it has been play out as publicly as it has been. Clearly there was he didn't get the length of contract extension offer that he was after. So it hasn't been ideal. But I don't subscribe to the fact that there was the individuals that were key to making the decision.
Andrew Ramsey.
Hi, George. Just throwing forward a couple of steps to the limited over stuff that follows the test in Pakistan, given that kind of overlaps with the start of the IPL. I was wondering what the selectors' view on players maybe not making themselves available for the white ball component of that tour, but going on to the IPL? Is there a school of thought there that you'd like to share with us?
Working through that, I think there's a couple of components to that, Rambo, that there's we do see the IPL as a really good development opportunity when it fits, but there's obviously a huge amount of cricket. There's I think the series planned for immediately post the IPL as well. So again, not unlike how we've worked through this, it'll be about working with the individuals to ensure that they're getting getting the prep that they need. But we certainly won't be releasing players to the IPL while Australia are playing.
Alex Malcolm.
Thanks, Kyle. Hi, George. I just had two quick ones. Sorry, we're bouncing around a little bit. I wanted to ask you about the third spin option, particularly left arm spin. We've seen in India in particular, it's been a huge factor. I know there's been 2 left arm spinners who have taken 5-wicket hauls in the 5 Pakistan tests that have been on. Ash Agar hasn't played a lot of first-class cricket. He's only played 1 first-class game in the last 12 months, and he's only played, I think, 15 in the last 4 years. Can you expand on the decision of taking him and whether or not Matt Kuhneman and or John Holland were in the frame?
Yeah, Ash last had a bit of a run at it, I think, at the start of last season with they had the little block in Adelaide, and it was great to see, and he performed particularly well. What we like about Ash is the incredible all-round skill set. I think his bowling will continue to get better. But what we've seen is that the way he bowls is pretty adaptable to red ball cricket. So really happy with that. I mean, absolutely having that option in your squad is particularly important, I think, for some of these wickets where sometimes leg spin you can be bowling on the best part of the wicket, and some of the subcontinent. We had I think it was a place where at times Warney struggled as well to make an impact, whereas the finger spin tends to have more of an impact at times.
And were Kuhneman or Holland in discussions at all, or for future tours?
No, they weren't for this one. I mean, it's been great to see Matty get an opportunity with Swepo being with the Australian team at some different times, and his white ball cricket's been fantastic for a couple of years for Queensland. So great to see him transfer that form into some Shield opportunities as well. And no, we see Ash as ahead of Dutchie.
Fair enough. And just finally, how does the panel work whilst the interim coach is in place before the full-time appointment is made?
The interim coach will be involved in selections of squads while he's there. Yeah, that's obviously Ron for Andrew for these next couple of tours, and as much from a overarching view of how he'd like the team to play, what brand of cricket, and that might help inform some of the selections.
Thanks, George.
Andrew Wu.
Yeah, g'day, George. You came into the setup, I think, probably about midway through Justin's tenure as coach. Can I get your assessment of the environment within the team, I suppose, when you joined, and then how that has evolved over, I suppose, the 2 years or so since you've been, in the role as a selector, and where it could go to in the future?
Well, funnily enough, through a bit of a quirk of fate, and I can't remember why it was, but I was actually present in Brisbane the day that JL first spoke to the Australian group when he took on the role. So I sort of feel like I was there for day one of the journey, despite sort of coming on in this role halfway through. But vividly remember his two points that day were that he wanted the team to earn respect with Australians, and he wanted to develop great cricketers and great people. And I think he has absolutely done that. I think the team have done that. JL's done that. The staff around the team have done that. So from that point of view, that was day one to when I started. What did you say? 2 years into that journey to now. One of the things that I think going back to early about midway last year was utilising Tim Ford and particularly around the playing group to sort of redo a lot of their values and sort of look at what the growth opportunities and where they wanted to take the team going forward in the next 4 years. And two of the main things to come out of that were to really own your space and to be accountable to that as an individual. And I think that's been the natural evolution of this group. It's certainly the group, the individuals, all three teams are in a very different space where they are today to where they were 4 years ago. And JL absolutely has to take an enormous amount of credit for that. And I hope he's immensely proud of it.
Ben Horn.
Hey, George. I was just wondering, in terms of going forward with a full-time coach once that person is appointed, do you see it as imperative that the coach is a selector, or do you perceive any issues with that? And was that an issue for JL at all, that he was a selector?
I always think that that's up to and partly depends on the personality, on the coach, on what Cricket Australia are thinking in terms of the structure of that role. I know there has been some discussion around whether it gets split out at all, and so I think that's probably first and foremost the thing to nut out. But even across my journey, the head coach is so involved at times in the series that's right ahead of you, and your head's you're so focused on that, your head's down, you're working so hard that there's times when I think naturally the coach takes a bit of a back seat in selection, and that's Tony and my job to cast our eyes forward as to what's coming up and where we see it and bring that back to the head coach. And there's times when there is a bit more opportunity for the coach to be a bit more involved, see a bit more domestic cricket and actually be a little bit more hands-on.
George, sorry, if I could just ask one more, mate. You mentioned before that, you don't agree with individuals being, pointed out in this, in JL's exit. Pat Cummins is one of those people who has been singled out a bit. And you played a World Cup with Pat and Mitchell Johnson. Were you saddened to see Mitchell react in that kind of emotional way? And, do you sort of hope that relationships like that aren't damaged out of this?
Yeah, I get that people, there's a number of ex-players who are working in the media, and that's part of their role is to have strong opinions. I'm not. The other thing is it's hard as a past player to keep your finger completely on the pulse of what's going on, within the team. So a lot of their opinions can be based on hearsay and second and third hand information. So that's always encourage those players to reach out and get a good understanding of what's happening. Mate, to be perfectly honest, I don't know if there has been any fallout in that relationship. I don't know if Pat has read it, has taken any notice of it, so I'm not sure.
Couple more here, folks. We'll go with Peter Lawler and then two more after that.
It's Lawler, but anyway.
I just remember that, Pete. Apologies, Pete Lawler.
No problem, Colin. Yeah, George. Sorry. On a more serious note, were you consulted by Ben or by Nick in this process? And can you tell us what your contribution was if you were? That's in JL I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was consulted. I mean, I actually don't know how I led to believe that it was a very, very broad consultation. They went wide. Again, I've been consulted back since the middle of last year when Tim was coming in to do the look at the cultural review, and we did something similar within the staff as well.
All right.
Thanks, Cole. Hey, George. Just a quick one. Nick Hockley spoke about how this needs to be there will be integrated leadership. Everyone will step up and play roles. And you were an integral part of the coaching staff during the Ashes. I mean, you were giving throwdowns. And do you think going forward that will be part of your role? Just an extended part of the coaching staff, despite being the selector.
No, I don't do any coaching. I'm just a workhorse. Just filling volume there, but I enjoy it. It doesn't suit my style to be a step removed and to be watching from the back, I find I can have better conversations with players when I'm involved with staff. I feel like I've got a better feel for what individuals are working on, what the team's working on, and a better picture of what the actual, as games unfold, particularly Test cricket as the tactics change, different things. So, but no, certainly no coaching, because I've got no idea what's going on.
Thanks.
Dan Brady.
G'day, George. Just a question about, there's a bit of a sort of public perception out there that Justin was a disciplinarian who was giving, tough love that players need. Can you, I suppose, provide a bit of an insight into the sort of dialogue that you see customarily around a cricket team these days, like what the players want to learn, what they gain from, and what they respond to best?
Yeah, I did see that. One of in Jail's letter that he apologised for being too intense. I don't think that's something he had to apologise for. One, if he felt that way, but two, I don't think he was too intense. I don't think any two cricket teams are the same in terms of how the communication that needs. I think you've got such a, at any one time, you've got a different array of experience. You've got a different array of leaders within that group. Teams are in different places, so I think that the way that you communicate with them, what you're aiming for, what goals are coming up, where the team might be at in terms of its journey, evolution, whatever you want to call it, is constantly shifting, and I think the way that you communicate and work with that team is constantly shifting as well.
And so, just to follow up on that, would you say then that this team where it's at now is sort of comfortable with having, honest and adult conversations about where people are at, how their games are evolving, how the team is working?
Yeah, I keep going back to the to a couple of the things that they came out of, and I think that owning your own space, impacting the game, and being accountable to your position, that's language that we use a lot. The playing group use a lot. The staff use a lot, and it was an integral part of the World Cup success, integral part of the Ashes. So yeah.
Thank you.
Last one, guys, from one Tasmanian to the other. Brent Costello.
Yeah, local question, George, if that's all right. First of all, how much of a role will you play, if any, in selecting a new coach? And secondly, Michael Devenuto's obviously had a really good apprenticeship around the world. Would he be a really good candidate for the job if he wants to apply for it?
I've got no idea. I wouldn't expect I will play much of a role at all, but always happy to if asked. And Diva in particular, I think one of the great things about this Australian setup at the moment with the three assistant coaches in Andrew, Michael and Jeff Vaughan is that all three have had head coach experience. So they know what it's like to lead an entire group. They've all been assistants at different times as well. So, all those experiences hold them in good stead. Michael in particular, I think the journey that he's been on and, coaching on other parts of the world, being a head coach at Surrey, being a batting coach, being I guess a more formal assistant coach, all holds him in good stead on his coaching journey.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brent, and thanks to George Bailey for joining us today, guys. We'll catch up with you all next time. Thank you.
Cheers, Cole. Cheers, George.
Thank you.
Thanks.